By the time you'll listen to this game, Double Gaming 27 would be still in progress. We'll be waiting for the midweek fixtures, but I think what everybody will now be planning next for is the blank fixtures in Gameweek 27, where Liverpool and Chelsea are playing in the League Cup final, so they won't be playing in the league. And because of that, over there, Liverpool was supposed to play Arsenal, so that fixture won't happen. So Arsenal won't be playing as well. And then we're fortunate enough to get Leicester playing Burnley in, or got rearranged into this Game Week 27 round of fixtures. So at least we get a bit of a reprieve over there. So, Craig, welcome back for another episode. So you've put together a dream team for us going into blank Game Week 27, if you want to call it blank Game Week 27.
Yes, I have. And this is obviously, there is still a slight possibility of some other fixtures being rearranged for 27. So we'll keep that in mind. And if if anything does get rearranged, just keep that in mind that those players haven't been included in the dream team at the moment.
Right. And also another thing is, considering that we still have a game week in progress, it's always difficult to put these dream teams together because injuries or something could happen. So if anything changes, we'll just post updates on the socials and whatever it is, and you can catch the changes over there. But apart from that, provided that everything goes well and hopefully everybody stays fit, then this should be our preferred, our most optimal Game Week 27 dream team. So, Greg, let's kick it off, okay? So, probably the obvious choice, which we did touch on in Game Week 26, is Pope as our goalkeeper, right? Who has two fixtures in double Gaming 27. So he have double. So obviously Burnley have so many double game week fixtures, we lose track of it anyway, right? But
exactly. Yeah.
So we've got Pope in there. And I'll just run through the rest of the team quickly, and then we can start just breaking it down for our listeners. But we have Pope in as our keeper, who you've actually selected as vice captain as well, Greg. And then I see, and then three at the back: Cancelo, me, and Kyle Walker-Peters, and then five midfielders: Bowen, Sterling, Foden, Cornet, and Son. And then our forwards, which is Weghorst and Broja. So so talk us through this, Greg. Vice Captain Pope, that sounds bold, eh?
Well, firstly, I want to say, because as it stands, Burnley are the only double game week team. I've ignored the 3-player per team cap for this one, just to give people options, because I think that the Burnley options are pretty much what everyone's going to be targeting for 27. So this sort of tells you exactly where and obviously depending on your team, where the best ones fit. But yeah, it was very interesting that the models basically said that there's nothing between Pope and Weghorst for sort of top spot for the game week.
Yeah, interesting one, because like I was saying in the previous recording that we did, was I brought in Weghorst specifically because he was so cheap, low ownership, and I felt like he's someone I can easily bench. But this is the type of game weeks that I brought him in for, to be able to target these type of situations. So yeah, it's an interesting one, because I mean, it's still at the back of your mind, you still think, okay, it's Burnley. However, Leicester's problems on set pieces are well documented as well.
Yeah.
So that would be quite interesting. Because of that, I'm expecting Weghorst to score 5 goals in this game. So,
and I think Ben Mee and Tarkowski could also be, set piece beasts, both of them. So.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be quite an interesting one, And then you have Cornet in the midfield as well, which I suppose, those are the three. I see, just by the way, you've got 4 Burnley players in your dream team, just by the way.
Yeah, I've got 5. Like I said, I think because it's the only team with a double game week, just had to put them all in there just to show the different options, because they're all quite different. You've got basically a goalkeeper option, defensive option, a midfield option and a forward option.
Okay,
And
so just for our listeners, you can't create this team as a free hit team. It's not going to work. You can only
it's
have
not going to work.
players.
It's not going to work for a free hit team. But you'll see the others on the bench, and you'll see. We'll speak about some other options as well for 27.
Yeah. Okay, now that's awesome, and that makes sense because, like you said, because of the double game week, there's so many options out of Burnley as well. We may as well just put them in there, right? So so like, and we spoke about the set piece threat from Burnley. We spoke about Leicester's weaknesses from set piece, and Cornet does take corners as well. I'm not sure about free kicks, but I know he takes the corners.
Yeah, he's also another captaincy option for sure. I think pretty much any of those four in the starting lineup, you could consider putting the armband on this week.
Right, and then, that I suppose that makes sense. And now, the three players that are quite interesting, and I'm going to speak about them all at once, is Cancelo in the defense, and then Sterling and Foden. Now, on paper it looks all fine and good, but we've spoken about this. It's Pep Roulette time. It's Champions League. It's now the thick end of the league as well. I just don't know who will play. So even though it makes so much sense to have these players in your team.
Yeah, I think Cancelo you have to keep and just hope that he doesn't get rotated too often. He's been, with City's lack of options at the back, I think that he should play the majority of games. So I think you just play him and hope that he plays, and if he doesn't, you'll have someone else coming off your bench. But I think Sterling and Foden are tougher pills to swallow. Sterling, especially with his price. So although they are projected very high, you are going to be playing a game of Pep Roulette a little bit, and it does sort of beg the question: is it worth having any City players at all, other than Cancelo? And probably not. They are still going to be projected to be the top scorers for the week, outside of Burnley's, pretty much Burnley's double game week. So I think you can't just not consider them. But I think personally, I think I'm not going to have any City midfielders going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking about activating my wildcard, in the previous recording, and I removed Gundogan from my team because I've been carrying him through for so long, since like last year, and it was like finally time for him to go as well, So yeah, the minutes are just too unpredictable for these players as well, and also, to be fair, it's not. Yes, they put up good numbers when they play, but it's kind of like the goals have been shared throughout the team as well. So it makes it very difficult to even pick them out for captaincy as well.
Yeah, it makes life incredibly tough. But I think that's where other options like holding on to Bowen, who interestingly enough has like we spoke about in the last episode, he's playing against a very good Wolves defence, but I think he's just too good of a player at the moment and in too much form to consider not having him in. We all know that could end badly, and I think you can easily go for a guy like Son, who is going to be the nailed on player, and I would lean more towards a guy like Son over City players for the next few weeks for sure.
Right, and then so I mean, you've mentioned Bowen there. I think we've spoken about him enough now over the last episode or so as well, and we I mean, everybody knows now, like, Bowen is effectively a template essential player because he's been in such great form over the last few weeks or months or whatever it is, right? Now, I still think I'm leaning towards Son, even though I have Weghorst. I don't think. Well, I don't have Son at the moment either. I haven't done transfers or whatever. But when I look at the Son versus Leeds, it just feels like kind of the right captaincy option because, I mean, I still can't shake the feeling that it's Burnley, and. Do I really, really want to captain their players, even if it's maybe a defender, but I'm not convinced on Weghorst as a captain. I think whatever points I get off him, it feels like bonus points.
It's for sure another thing to consider in a week like this is just ignoring the double game week players as a captaincy option and going with a guy like Son. But there aren't really too many easy options when you look around game week 27. With the Liverpool blank and the Arsenal blank, you're kind of scratching your head. City are going to have rotation. It goes back to like maybe I should just keep my thinking simple and go with the guys that are playing twice. But I think Son's probably your best option by a long way in terms of single game week captaincy.
Right, yeah, and the next now and then I suppose because of the blanks, we have quite a few. Our players for this week is made from a small pool of teams. As you can see, there's 3 City players featuring there. There's 5 Burnley players featuring, and then obviously Bowen and Son. And then, and you got Kane on the bench as well, right, as another option. So we've got 2 Spurs players in there. And now the next lot I'd like to talk about, you've actually got 3 Southampton as well with Fraser Forster on the bench. And then Kyle Walker-Peters and Broja. Now that's an interesting one because they play Norwich. And now the interesting thing about Norwich is that they've been resurgent over the last few weeks. They've looked much better. I mean, I was watching them against City the other day and they actually did okay, It's just that City have so much of quality that, you can... There's only so long that they could kind of play the way they play and then prevent City from scoring. But would you consider something like Broja a captaincy option for this week then?
It's a tough question. I wouldn't really put him in that bracket. So I think I'd still rather go with the guys that are playing twice over Broja. But I think that Broja and Walker-Peters are great options, and not just for game week 27, but I think going forward, they've got Norwich, Villa, Watford, Burnley, Leeds in the next 5. That's a really decent run. And if you're looking for coverage again for game week 30, they have a game, or will likely have a game. It's obviously still dependent on the FA Cup ties, but if there's a possibility they play in game week 30 and they have a really really good fixture run, I think that's a real option for your team.
Yeah, I suppose that's one way of looking at it for future planning, I suppose. To get in one or two of these players, even if you're keeping them on the bench for a few weeks in preparation for game week 30.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there are a couple of games where you won't be so... I mean, Broja, you for sure can play in all of those games quite happily as one of your cheaper strikers.
Yeah, that's actually my plan, to be honest, because when I saw that run of fixtures, I thought, okay, Broja will be kind of nailed in my team, provided that he's fit. And I'll just decide on the rest of my forwards based on the fixtures to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to throw in this player or whatever and play 2 forwards. But I'm kind of like, just hedging my bets on the midfielders at the moment and hoping it kind of falls for me, if that makes sense. Now, you mentioned, I see now the one player I forgot to mention is Pinnock from Brentford as well.
Yeah, so Brentford, they've got Newcastle at home, and we know that Newcastle's greatly improved. But I think that, Brentford also have a reasonable sort of run of fixtures coming up. They've got Newcastle, Norwich, Burnley, and then they've got a game in game week 30 against Leicester. And I think that having a guy like Pinnock, whether you play him or use him as your game week 30 filler, he's certainly an option to consider. And I do think that Brentford have been a little bit underperforming in terms of the clean sheets that they've been expected to get recently, and that can quickly change. So
I think it will change because you mentioned that, and I find it quite interesting because I don't want to say it was coincidental, it was just because of David Raya getting injured, but I think it can't be coincidental. I don't think the other keeper was that bad either. I think it just could have been maybe or like, okay, maybe it was coincidental with the fixture swing or whatever it is, but David Raya is back now, and all of a sudden, they're looking a little bit better, I would think.
Yeah, and they got a clean sheet for the first time in a while in Gameweek 25.
Exactly,
so.
and he was one of the players. He did quite well. So I'm thinking maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it now, but it's definitely one that I'd probably put on a watch list as well, so that, in future when we're free hitting or whatever, or playing bench boost, he might become an option if I want him in my team for like a double game week or whatever.
Yeah, I think not many people are going to be considering Brentford defence at all. So it's definitely one to watch. I expect, like you said, with the keeper back, I expect they just look a little bit more organised again, and I think that there could be some clean sheets coming through there.
Yeah, and so look, I think we obviously sped through the our discussion on the dream team because it's such a I suppose because so many of the key players that we'd usually discuss, this team feels so weird without Liverpool players in it, without Salah and the likes in there, right?
Yeah.
But what I'd like to talk about now that we've gone through the team is that a lot of people seem to be possibly considering playing the free hit for Gameweek 27. Now, I have my opinion, and we've spoken about our chip strategies in a previous episode, and even in the last episode, we spoke about not playing the free hit in Gameweek 30. Under what circumstances? I mean, okay, obviously, if there's a crippling injury crisis, you'd want to maybe free hit so that you can have a full team out. But do you think that, let's say, for example, you were like 2 or 3 players short, what would be your first thought? Take the hit, get a full team out, or play the free hit?
Honestly, I wouldn't consider the free hit if I didn't have, I'd say maybe 8 players. Like if I was 8 or less, I would consider it, and even then I might talk myself out of it. I just don't think it's necessary on a week like that. It's just going to be so much more valuable. Even 30 is surely more valuable when you've got so many players out than 27. But if you really are struggling for players, I mean, I'd have to be down to 7 or 8 players starting without a bench to even consider it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been my thinking as well. It's like, okay, before I wildcarded, my thoughts were like, okay, at a push, if I have to go in with 10 players into that game week, so be it. If I have to take a -4 to get in a full playing 11, that's okay as well. And even then, I'm not going to take in a -4 to bring in a player who I don't feel has a high ceiling, So it was one of those where, okay, fine, I'd rather just, just hold on until and try and make up the points in game week 28 and going forward or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm not too keen on, and I think that was probably one of the big reasons of wildcarding as well going into game week 25 was just being able to plan out. And I spoke about that where I said, okay, I don't want to be taking too many hits because looking at these fixtures as well in game week 27, it doesn't feel like high impact fixtures where like you're thinking, okay, I can, you spoke about the captaincy options. There's no real standout captaincy options as well. Well, one that's nailed on at least, so, and I think that also plays a part in the thinking to say, well, if you don't have nailed on, like I said, no really good fixtures, no really standout captaincy shouts as well, then the free hit feels like a real waste.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's like going through to the rest of the season and to the end of the season. We've got a huge number of double game weeks that are going to come up. We've got lots of chips that are going to people
maybe
are going to be
a potential triple game week along the way.
Yeah, potentially a triple game week. There's a lot to consider, and I think that when you're going to use these chips, you want to use them in weeks that are going to be high scoring weeks. And there's certain weeks where you can just see that they're not going to be high scoring. And I think 27 and 30 for me are going to be the 2 low scoring weeks probably for the rest of the season. And do you really want to waste one of your chips on on surviving a low scoring week where you're not going to lose. Even if you have a absolutely shocking week, you're not going to lose much ground. But wasting that chip is going to be giving up so much value later on, where you can really use it. And if there's a triple game week and you've got a free hit when other people don't, let me tell you, that chip is going to be like gold.
Yeah, and like, we spoke about it. That's my thinking as well. I'd rather lose 15, 20, 30 points or whatever it is, so be it. But I feel like if you really play those chips right, you could end up gaining 60 points later on in the season.
In these low scoring weeks, I'll be very surprised if anyone loses more than 20 points in any situation. If you're fielding 8 players, I don't think you're going to lose that much ground. It doesn't seem like it's the kind of week where you're really going to be.
I was being generous with the 30, to be fair. Like I was being really generous over there, because yes, even if you take a few hits to get a decent side, like you mentioned previously, like 9 points, or not 9 points, 9 players, 8 players, whatever the case may be, you could take hits to get to that number, and you could have a respectable score, I would say. And realistically, it could be, like you say, not even the 30 was too much. Yeah, about 12, 15 point jump.
Yeah. The thing is, like I said, they're going to be such low scoring weeks that the difference is not going to, it's going to come out in the wash. And I think that also taking hits for those low scoring weeks
also feels like a waste.
Also feels like a waste. I'd far rather play 9 players and be set up for the week that's coming afterwards than taking hits just to field players that aren't necessarily gonna shoot lights out.
I mean, you take a -4, he blanks and gets you 2 points.
Yeah, and then you have to make another transfer next week to get rid of a player that you didn't want. It's all a bit unnecessary, and I think that a bit of restraint during these quiet weeks is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, looking at the fixtures that most likely, like, I think the confirmed fixtures, if I remember correctly, and just remind me again, I'm looking at it now. I think Wolves play Leeds, if I'm correct, and then Villa play Arsenal, and Leicester play Brentford. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah, so those are the confirmed fixtures, and then one that's quite likely is Southampton Burnley. So I think
Southampton in the FA Cup still?
They are, but I think they're I think there's about a 50% chance that they lose that game, or I'm not sure how all the odds.
Oh well, Southampton play West Ham, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay.
So I think there's I only put it on my fixture ticker if there's a greater than 50% chance of that fixture happening. So I've got Southampton Burnley as a greater than 50% chance.
Okay, right. Okay, so that's fair enough, I suppose, right? So one way or another, though, you having most likely 3, max 4 fixtures for this week, and it's quite a horrible list of fixtures, to be fair.
It really doesn't look good for Gameweek 30. I think that's going to be, and I really hope that people using their free hits in that week, and I managed to field the team without doing so, because I think that it's going to be a bit of a wasted chip. Even if you use your free hit and you absolutely load your teams, I don't think the guys are going to be scoring the numbers that they think. And often in those weeks, you actually end up scoring fewer points than people that just sort of have that I don't care attitude and field the 9 players and get lucky somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to treat this week like how I treated the postponements. Is like, if I can't get to a certain number of players, so be it. I'm just going on with 8 players or 9 players, and that's it. I'm not going to waste my transfers, take a -4 for a player who's going to blank, and then I'm sitting with the next net result of -2. It makes no sense, so yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then you're also trying to sort out that transfer afterwards. It's never easy.
And then more justification as to why you shouldn't play that free hit chip in game week 30 is because if you look at the fixtures that will have to be rearranged into into to probably game week 36, I would think it is, or 35, if I'm 34, 36. There'll be double game weeks. The first City play Brighton. Newcastle Crystal Palace is another one, but Chelsea play Norwich. And then Spurs West Ham, which is one, but then Liverpool play Manchester United. So unless maybe there's another 5-0 loading there, I don't know. But
yeah, and won't it be nice when we can get some Chelsea defenders back? It's felt a little bit weird.
Yeah,
the last little stretch having no Chelsea defenders, no Salah. It's just been like, what's been going on with FPL?
Exactly, so there's some decent fixtures there that needs to be rearranged. Okay, yes, I was being a little bit, I was taking shots at Manchester United over there with the 5-0 thing, but look, just looking at the Chelsea Norwich one, there's now you potentially have a City double in another game week, plus a Chelsea double in another game week, and a Liverpool double in another game week, though United will be one of those fixtures. But considering all of that over there, that's when you should be using your free hit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's a difficult stage of the season when it comes to all this planning, because there is still like a lot unknown when these fixtures are going to happen, what down to which blanks are going to be happening. But I think that's the key, is you want to save it for when you something pops up that no one expects, and you're the guy sitting with those chips in hand.
Like last season's triple game week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, just a reminder for everybody listening, is that you cannot play your free hits in your 2 free hits. If you have both your free hits available to you, you can't play them in consecutive weeks. So make sure that you plan correctly as well. So yes, you can play a wild card in this week and free hit in next week, which makes it kind of weird. You won't do that, but anyway. But main thing is you cannot play your 2 free hits consecutively. So if you go in to the last 2 weeks thinking you're gonna free hit or whatever it is, you'll end up burning one of your free hits. So make sure that you plan that accordingly, and so that you don't leave yourself in a situation where you can't use your final free hit. And but yeah, it's I feel like there's going to be a lot of points to be had in that last 5 game weeks, and that's where I'm hoping to score the rest of my points, really. And from now till then, I'm kind of just trying to hang in there.
There's a lot of soccer to come. I mean, I think at the moment we've got, I think it's something like 19 fixtures that still have to be rearranged and put in the right places.
I'm sure like 10 of those 19 all belong to Burnley, but anyway.
Yeah, Burnley have a few of them. But yeah, that's the thing. Like we've got some, I think it's going to be a really exciting end to the season, and I think there could be some big rank swings. So it's definitely an opportunity for gaining rank, and if you make the wrong moves, I think it could be the opposite.
And one team I'd like to talk about, because they seem resurgent over recent weeks, and I know I spoke about Norwich, I think previous episode, or was it this one? Can't remember. But I know I mentioned Norwich at some point in time, but Newcastle seem to have picked up some form. Is there any players that you'd kind of put on your watch list over there going over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I'd say the only one who's really caught my eye is Trippier. I think
he's injured now. Now he's suffered a broken foot or something like that.
Oh, has he broken his foot? I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah, so that's quite unlucky over there.
That's unfortunate, because he was looking really good. Other than that, I can't say that there's anyone really standing out. I'm interested to see how Wood comes along, because he was posting some good numbers at Burnley. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do the same at Newcastle. But I think we're going to have to just give them a little bit more time. They certainly look like a much better outfit now with the new signings, the new coach. So they're not the walkovers that they were, I think, at the beginning of the season.
No, definitely not. And which is why I thought, like, let me just throw their name out there as well, because yeah, like I said, maybe potential for some differentials in there as well. And considering that for the last few weeks all I've been doing is specializing in hunting for differentials, which is, I suppose, how I ended up with Weghorst in my team. But yeah, I think that's about it, really, because I think I don't want to overthink it, but I think we're at that time of the season now where you need to start taking a little bit of calculated risks to get those, really take punt on some of these differentials along the way so that we can get a bit of a rank boost.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of options. I think the templates are going to change a hell of a lot with people wildcarding, with all the double game week fixtures coming up. I think it's going to be all over the place. So I think you just try and identify the guys that you think are going to basically score you the most points. And I wouldn't worry hugely about sort of what their ownership stats are, because I think that they're going to be plenty of low ownership players that are going to be available. So just go for what your gut tells you is the best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people get too caught up when I say differential hunting as well. I don't mean just going and looking at a player's ownership stats and be like, okay, he's coming in. There has to be a thought process behind it as well. Like, I've mentioned Andy Robertson as where I thought he looked amazing in real life. The eye test past numbers that he was putting up was really great over the last few weeks. I think, if I remember reading something correctly, since Gameweek 13, which seems like kind of like an arbitrary starting period, but anyway, I'm going with it because the official FPL account posted it. The Bowen has got the highest number of points, and Andy Robertson's been second. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and because of that over there, like, the numbers just made sense for me. So that's why, and I felt, okay, yeah, Robertson playing in a team which has been doing well defensively, and it makes sense. Whereas, like, and he's nailed on most likely, but just like you say, looking at ownership stats is never going to work out very well for any of us.
Yeah, and I think Robertson, for instance, is sort of my thinking behind it was that when Mane and Salah came back from AFCON, and now they've signed Luis Diaz as well, I feel like Jota's minutes are going to be quite limited.
Oh yes, so, that was another thing I thought about. Yes, I forgot to mention that. Like, when doing the my wildcard, that was also in my thoughts, like Jota being a rotation risk. And it got proven immediately because he got benched against Burnley.
Yeah, so I think a more solid three is going to sort of switch from Trent, Salah and Jota to Trent, Robbo and Salah. I think it's going to be the three that you want from Liverpool.
I suppose so, and the fact that there's quite a few midfield options knocking about, like Coutinho as well.
Yeah, there's some really cool options around, and I really think going cheap in your forwards, and then I wonder when Bowen's time is also going to come up, because I think that is, for me, there's a possibility that the Sun run does end as well. West Ham haven't been looking particularly good, so I wouldn't be dropping Bowen anytime soon, but it's definitely in the back of my mind at the moment. When is Bowen's time going to be up? And I think there could be some other players that come to the fore. If he continues to score, obviously keep him in, but I think I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did with Antonio, where he had such a brilliant start to the season and then I just held on to him for way too long. I think with the end of the season coming and all the doubles, I think you've got an opportunity to drop guys quite quickly if they're not performing.
Yeah, I know how you feel about hanging on to these players who just, it's almost like whenever you want to make the transfer, you always have another transfer that you need to do. So they keep on getting overlooked and getting stuck in your team for some reason,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Antonio was one of those for me. Gundogan was another one where I just kept him in there. I
kept thinking he was going to play the next game, and then I thought, okay, well, no, he's definitely going to play the next game.
And it just doesn't come.
And it just never came.
And the amount of times, like I remember like a few weeks ago, FPL mate Dan was asking, doing like, because he does those videos of like, of content creator videos, like what are you planning on doing in terms of transfers or whatever. And I replied and said I'm planning on removing Madison and Gundogan and bringing Coutinho and one other, and that was like over a month ago. And I'm thinking if I really pulled the trigger and did those transfers, I would have got all of the Coutinho points.
Yeah, you would have been smiling.
Yeah, and I did end up not doing it because I always either like Reece James got injured and then Alonso was going away for the Club World Cup and whatever, so there was always something else happening that prevented me from doing those transfers. So yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see like once like Chelsea players are back and so on, because Chelsea haven't even looked that great either over recent times. So that's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do coming back now. They had blanks and then they haven't been playing well, and no one's really had any Chelsea players. But I think after game week 30, 31 onwards, I think they're going to certainly be back on the table. And hopefully Reece James is back and we can all load up on him again. But it's interesting just how different that Chelsea side looks without Chilwell. They really looked like an absolute unit when Chilwell was there, and as soon as he got injured, everything just sort of fell apart. It just
kind of fell apart. Yeah. And it feels like coincidence, because early in the season it was almost like interchangeable. You could play Alonso, Azpilicueta, James, and it wouldn't matter. But then all of a sudden Chilwell and James rocked up, and I'll never forget, there must have been one of the earlier episodes that we recorded, and I don't know if you remember this, but I asked the question is, do you think this current run of Chelsea far exceeding their XG and their fullback scoring all the time will eventually end? And you were like, no, this is going to continue. And I don't think you were wrong about it either. I just think that, like I said, Chilwell getting injured kind of maybe imbalanced the team a little bit.
Yeah, that's where it all ended. And it was actually a good run, I think, of 5 or 6 weeks where Chilwell and James were just scoring absolute lights out.
And once Chilwell got injured, James was scoring like 0 and 1 point. It was crazy.
It all just disappeared. And Alonso started the season so well, and then when he came back after Chilwell's injury,
he just didn't look
nowhere.
Good, yeah. Even like as an FPL asset, yes, you can still rely on him to get points, but in real life he looked very poor as well. So so that's quite an interesting one. Yeah. So yeah, look, all in all, I think this is it's gonna be it feels like this last few weeks, Gameweek 24, 25, leading up to like 30, if you can just hang in there and try and plan as best as possible and just hang in there. It's a tough period right now, but I think from game week 31 onwards, once the big blank game weeks are out of the way, we're going to start to be able to really see some movement, to be able to use some of our chips as well, but our seasons could really start taking off from there onwards.
Yeah, 100%, and I look forward to it. It's going to be a real fun end to the season. Hopefully we can reach those targets that we've all been aiming for.
Yeah, look, we'll record another episode for going into Game Week 28. But yeah, all the best, everybody. Good luck for Game Week 27 and for the rest of the season, I suppose. And like we said, if you can, keep those chips in your pocket right now, because there's going to be some massive game weeks coming up. If you don't listen to the rest of the episode, just listen to this part over here. Keep those chips in your pocket. That's about it. Okay. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Clyde.